They are paid by a silent partner to assassinate targets. Some have spilled so much blood that they've become famous in the Hall of Fame of murder. Here are the most monstrous hitmen in history. Iceman, the cold-blooded killer. Richard Kuklinski is an American criminal and hitman, as imposing for his build of 6'4", 300 pounds as for the number of murders he has committed. He has confessed to killing over 100 people in the course of his career, although he has only been convicted of 5 murders. Born in the 1930s in the suburbs of New York, he grew up with a violent, alcoholic father, and at the age of 13, he ends up killing a classmate. It was his very first murder. He began his criminal career selling illegal copies of X-rated films, then turned to selling drugs. In 1973, he was spotted and recruited by the Italian-American mafia. Richard Kuklinski soon became the most feared hitman in the United States. As his life of crime progressed, the police began to nickname him Iceman. One of his methods was to freeze the bodies of his victims, making it impossible to determine the time of death. His killing methods were particularly cruel. He explains them in a book. I would usually drag my victims in a cave, tie them up, then film them being eaten by rats. Why? It was to send a video to the person who ordered the killing. Before his arrest in 1987, he was a well-liked neighbor in his residential New Jersey neighborhood, a loving father and husband. No one around him suspected his double life as a hitman. In the documentary Confessions of a Mafia Hitman, he utters these chilling words.
I would move heaven, hell, and anything in between to get to you. Wouldn't be safe anywhere if I was mad at you. If you don't kill me, you're stupid. So next time you see me, I will kill you.
Sentenced to 2 life sentences in 1988, he died in prison 18 years later. Some say he was poisoned, but we'll never know. Popeye, Escobar's right-hand man. John Jairo Velasquez is a Colombian hitman and one of Pablo Escobar's most loyal associates. For the man he called the boss, he is said to have killed over 250 people and ordered 3,000 murders. He was born in Colombia in the 1960s. At the age of 12, he witnessed a settling of scores. Years later, he recalled that he was not afraid. Quite the contrary. He first joined the army, then the police, and finally a cartel specializing in cocaine trafficking. In cartel circles, he became known as Popeye, a nickname given to him by his fellow students at the Naval Academy because of his prominent chin. An accomplice to thousands of deaths, he didn't hesitate to kill civilians in order to get at prominent Colombians. In 1992, at the age of 30, he left Pablo Escobar to turn himself in. He confessed to having supplied the weapon that killed Luis Carlos Galán, a presidential candidate in Colombia, to having also killed a prosecutor, and to having participated in the kidnapping of Andrés Pastrana before he was elected president. The court then handed him a hefty 4-decade sentence. He was finally released 23 years later. He then created his YouTube channel, which quickly reached over 1 million subscribers. There, Popeye shows off his tattoos and boasts of having killed Colombian journalists, politicians, and policemen. In 2015, the man who loves the spotlight paid his respects at Pablo Escobar's grave near Medellin in front of journalists' cameras. There, he uttered the now famous words, "Whatever the power or the money, we'll all end up here. We thugs will end up in prison, the morgue or the cemetery. Those are our meeting places." Popeye died in 2020 of esophageal and stomach cancer. Roy DeMeo, the butcher. Nicknamed the Cleaner of Brooklyn, Roy DeMeo was a hitman and gangster in the New York Italian Mafia. He is suspected by the FBI of having committed between 75 and 200 murders in just 10 years. He grew up in Brooklyn in the 40s in a family of Neapolitan origin. A corpulent child, he was teased by his classmates and fought to gain respect at an early age. He began by killing for the Gambino family, then quickly climbed the ranks of American organized crime. Over the years, Roy DeMeo became known for his particularly sordid method of murder, the Gemini method. After shooting his victim in the head, DeMeo would plunge a knife into the heart to stop the flow of blood, then suspend the body by the feet over a bathtub. The hitman would then cut the body into several pieces and throw them into rubbish bags. In this way, he made hundreds of bodies disappear, never to be found again. Meanwhile, he led a quiet family life with his wife and 3 children in a small house by the sea. Who would have thought that he was one of the most sought-after hitmen in the United States? In the 80s, the FBI tracked him down and DeMeo became paranoid. His godfather, Paul Castellano, feared he was collaborating with the police and decided to have him eliminated. His body was found riddled with bullets in the trunk of his car in Brooklyn on January 10, 1983.